What's up, guys? Leyton here for UFC Gambling Addicts. We're offering a $50 UFC gift store voucher. Not many people entered the giveaway last week, but for as long as people are entering the giveaway, we'll keep offering that on this channel. Obviously, it's not easy to predict 5 perfect fights, but like I say every week, it is free to drop a comment and try and win that voucher. So, yeah, do that and enjoy the breakdown. Cheers.
And welcome to episode 24 of UFC Addicts. My name is Aaron, and I'm here as always with my co-host Leyton to break down UFC Fight Night 147 from London, England. Darren Till and Jorge Gamebred Masvidal is the main event. And as always, I'm here with my co-host Leyton. What up, buddy?
What's up, bro? What's up? What's up? Okay, so the card just gone. Both had very nice profit on the card. I had to hedge a bit of money on Lewis, Zaleski, and Nico Price. That took away from my profit a little bit, but obviously Nico and Zaleski won, which helped me out. Decent night overall. I know you had some success as well with bets.
Yep.
That's beautiful. Talking points, Ben Rothwell. I know some people are saying he got robbed. In my opinion, correct decision, 29-28 for Ivanov. The first round was a little deceiving. A lot of people thought Ben won that first round. I disagree. He came forward with a lot of pressure, but, as for strikes, he didn't land a lot. Nico Price, what can you say about that guy? Warrior.
Yeah, I nailed that. I did not exactly see it going quite that way, but I maybe said this once or twice on the pod, but Alan Jouban, always going to be one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. And when Nico Price KO'd him in the first round, took me a few fights to forgive Nico and accept the reality. I'll be honest though, when I picked Nico, I did pick a KO, but I didn't quite see it going like that. I mean, he took some shots, and the leg snap and ankle snap, which a few people from a group that we both belong to called out the ankle snap right after. I didn't see it. Just saw an announcement, though, that, Tim Means' ankle and tibia, or fibula, one of the two, are basically done. He's going to have surgery on both. So, Nico looked really good. Mentioned that he was walking around at 178 on fight night. So he really felt like that's why he could take some of those shots. And he's not going to be the biggest guy in there, but he's quick and he is tough and he's just crazy. I'm a big fan of him. And speaking of big fans, Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, not quite as many people know his name yet as I'd hope. But that's going to happen soon. He just keeps having impressive performance after impressive performance, and just went in there with pure composure, put out Curtis Millender, who before the fight I heard plenty of people calling out how Millender had a potential title run in him, but I'm failing to see these people who see Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos having that same chance.
You said last week, you said on my last pod, you are extremely confident that Zaleski would win. You said you will know his name after this one. And, your main events may not be spot on, but, when you seem extremely confident, like you were more so in Diego Sanchez, we both took him, but you was extremely confident. Once again, you've nailed that one. So, Zaleski has to, top 5 now at least. Is it 7 or 8 now? He's won in a row?
He lost a very controversial and close split decision to Nicholas Dalby, who, again, Nicholas Dalby, I always will look back at his fight against Darren Till, which I believe ended in a draw, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Nicholas Dalby could be Darren Till right now. Instead, he's in, I believe, ACB or Bama now, or some sort of, it's one of those British smaller regional circuits. It's just amazing how different their two trajectories went, but Dos Santos even will have no problem stating he felt he won that fight. He counts as a win, but it's 7 in a row officially at welterweight, which puts only Kamaru Usman in front of him with regards to active win streak in the division. And I see that fight happening sometime next year, I hope, in 2020. But Usman has a lot of hurdles to get through before then, and I won't really go into my prediction, but I would predict Askren gets the next shot at Usman. I know everybody's saying it's going to be Colby Covington, and I just have a feeling something's gonna
Ben Askren,
drive Askren.
Ben Askren is in London. I'm going to be giving him a question on Friday, and hopefully meeting him on Friday. He's in London, so maybe Ben Askren and Darren Till next. We don't know. JDS and Lewis, before we move into this card, your thoughts on that?
Missed another one. The only thing that Lewis was really good for was with regards to my betting. Another guy who was pretty confident was Nico Price, who was an underdog. And so early on in the card, I put in a parlay with Nico and Derek Lewis, which ended up paying out pretty good odds there, I believe, 750 or so. And so that created a cover for me, which allowed me to put JDS in all my parlays. So, and then have a pretty substantial cover without a huge investment in Derek Lewis and Nico Price being a parlay. So if you ever have a underdog you're very, very Diego Sanchez level confident in, put him in a parlay with maybe the underdog in the main event, and then put the favorite in the main event with your parlays, and you could have a pretty... I went into that main event, literally it was a $2 difference I was going to make between my two winners.
That's betting 101, man. When you get into that position with the main event where it's just profit, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Performance-wise, you know, it's crazy to think how hurt Derek Lewis was at times and still cracked JDS. You have to give credit to JDS with his chin. Like he took some shots. He took some shots off of Lewis. But you know, JDS just very technical, great conditioning, and you know, picked his spot and finished Lewis. Man, he finished him, and you know, it's fair play. Like JDS is, you know, maybe Stipe, you know, the trilogy. You know, that's a great fight again.
Yeah, I'd love to see that fight. If Stipe is willing to fight someone besides Cormier, which I'm not turning on Stipe at all. I understand why he wanted that shot, but at this point, it's been over a year. It's February of last year that Stipe lost. I mean,
he's just still waiting. He's waiting for DC.
Pretty disappointing. But yeah, you're going to be at this card this weekend, as you said. So let's break it down for the fine folks here. So we are leading off at 135 with Nadirami.
Yep, Narimani. Yep,
Narimani and Mike Grundy. I will be breaking down Mike Grundy, the UFC newcomer. He's 11-1 with 8 submissions and no KO. So made it a little bit easier to get a read initially on kind of the type of fighter he is. He's currently on a 7-fight win streak, and his only loss came by triangle choke against, I don't know if you remember this guy, but Damian Stosniak.
Yep.
He's in the UFC for about... he's in the UFC for 6 fights, so that's the only loss Mike Grundy has. Otherwise, 11-0. He was a bronze medalist in freestyle wrestling at the 2014 Commonwealth Games, representing England. So he's got a really strong wrestling and aggressive submission game, kind of similar to his opponent here. I think this is a pretty clearly a grappler versus grappler kind of matchup. And one thing I like about Grundy, after watching some fights and listening to some interviews of his, is that he's been expected to be in the UFC for quite some time now, and really has had his eyes on the UFC also. He's 32, so he's a little bit older, but also pretty much in his physical prime, and 12 fights is a decent amount of experience. Trains with Darren Till, so that camp's going to be building towards this fight card, obviously, which I think is always something worth checking out when you're betting, is how many other fighters are coming out of that fight camp around that time. So he's been training with Darren Till for quite a while. Darren Till has been spouting his praises as well. So I think we're going to have a really good grappling affair here, which may come down to whose stand-up is a little better. And I haven't seen much stand-up from Grundy, but I actually think that Grundy is going to be the better wrestler here. And I think that he's going to look to take the top and beat up Nads. And I'm actually going to be taking the newcomer here. So I think that Grundy, honestly, if Nads is not careful with his shot and leaves his neck out there, Grundy has had a variety of different kinds of chokes, with Barbaro chokes, anaconda chokes, and really he's pretty aggressive and confident with his grappling. He's a freestyle wrestler. Didn't fight in the Olympics, but Commonwealth Games are pretty respectable. So I like the newcomer here. He's got some pretty world-class grappling, and I think he's going to use it and get a decision.
Nice. Okay. So Narimani comes into this fight 2-0 inside the UFC. I saw him debut in Germany. Really nice performance, to be fair. Really nice wrestling, grappling. And then he fought in Argentina against Anderson dos Santos. He was pretty good there too. He did show us, though, that he can tire towards the third round. So that's something to watch out for. Just like you said, grappler versus grappler, wrestler versus wrestler. You have a pretty fair assessment. Mike Grundy could be a better wrestler. However, I think the level of competition Mike's fought, I see him just being able to shoot for the takedown whenever he wants. Narimani is going to be able to stuff a takedown. He's a very good wrestler as well. So I think Mike Grundy is going to experience something that he hasn't experienced before. You point out his team, the Darren Till team in Liverpool. So you could be spot on here. But I just think Narimani is a very good wrestler as well. And we pretty much do agree to an extent. I think it will come down to who has more tools. And I believe Narimani has more tools. So I see him, being able to stuff a takedown, get his own takedown, and even score on the feet. So for those reasons, I'm going to stick with Narimani here, and I'm going to take him to win via decision.
All right, fair enough. And I figured Mike Grundy would be the underdog. He is the plus 200 underdog.
Yep. Okay, that's pretty fair.
That's insane to me. That's pretty insane to me. Okay. I love putting some money down against. I do not view Narimani as being minus 260 worthy against many fighters, and Mike Grundy is minus 260.
Yeah, that's a. Yeah, I don't know about putting him in many parlays for sure. Maybe one at the most. But
I will be including Mike Grundy in a few, and I will also be probably betting on Grundy straight up. I really have liked how aggressive he is on the ground. He doesn't just sell for positions, like, not to pick on certain fighters, but like a Bueller type of wrestler.
Yeah, I did see he actively looks for the submission. And Darren Till as well has even said it's unbelievable Mike Grundy isn't in the UFC yet. So, your assessment could be spot on here.
Yeah, and I just think we may be looking at a 200 to 300 point shift in his odds for his next fight. I don't see it if he really comes out here and performs the way I'm anticipating. So, and I think getting the loss to Damian Stosniak early in his career let him kind of know how far he had to come before he'd be UFC quality. So, I'll take the underdog Mike Grundy. So we will lead off with a disagreement.
Okay, so next fight is Molly Meatball McCann versus Priscilla I'm not even going to attempt that. That's the female that got beat up badly by Valentina. I'll be breaking down Molly McCann. Okay, so she comes into this fight 0-1 inside the UFC. You're going to hear me say this a lot in this breakdown. I have seen quite a few fighters on this card live. So Molly McCann, she debuted in Liverpool. I was at that fight. She was a favourite against Gillian Robertson, and I was massively surprised by that because I was all over Gillian. Big fan of Gillian Robertson, her jiu-jitsu. Molly McCann, she has some decent power for a female. So, you don't want to get hit with her left hand. We saw her ground game wasn't exactly the best. Gillian really did, get it done pretty quick when it hit the mat. Having said that, you know, if it's standing, I really don't see Molly McCann getting outpointed. If it hits the mat, she could get subbed again. But having said that, Priscilla has no sub wins in her pro career. So, you know, I bet against Molly McCann in her debut. I'm fairly confident in taking her in this one. So I'm going to assume she keeps the fight standing. And I'm actually going to take her to get a finish. I think if it's standing, she gets a finish in the second round. So I'll take Molly McCann via TKO in round number 2.
Okay. I will be breaking down Priscilla Cachoeira, I'll go with. And her nickname, I'm wondering if she got this nickname after the Valentina fight, is Zombie Girl. Because Valentina, I'm pretty sure, killed her in that fight and then brought her back to life and then killed her again and then brought her back to life again and then killed her one more time before the ref decided to stop the fight.
Who was that ref? Was that Yamazaki as well?
I would think Eve Levine. That seems like an Eve Levine move, but I can look it up on a handy site here, and I'll get it to you when we're breaking down the next fight. I'll get the actual ref.
Okay.
But my prediction is Eve Levine. So Priscilla Cachoeira, I'll say. She's 0-1 in the UFC, and she's going to forever be known as the girl who got beat down by Valentina before they gave her a title shot. I haven't seen that much from Molly McCann to make me super excited, and Molly McCann is definitely more appropriate level of fight for Priscilla. And this is one of these female fights to me that's a total toss-up. I will see if Priscilla's recovered and belongs here. One advantage she'll have is she'll be the much taller fighter, and if she can use her reach and kind of have an active jab, maybe keep McCann away, because McCann's a little bit shorter at, I believe, like 5'4" or so. So a little meatball. So it's a toss-up here. And I'm picking Molly McCann, and I try not to do this often, but it's based on her opponent. I just saw nothing from her opponent that led me to believe. And I don't think that's a type of MMA loss that makes you a better fighter. So I'll take McCann. I don't see there being a finish either way. I see this being a decision. I'm not going to be betting on this one a whole lot. I'll take McCann, I guess.
Nice. And how are you taking her? Decision?
Decision. Sloppy decision.
Fair play. And the odds?
McCann is a minus 190 favorite.
Okay.
So plus 155 for Priscilla. I'm more okay with that.
Yeah, seems fair.
That seems closer to what Nad should be at. Also, I really am shocked that's nearly 300 favorite against a really like world class or close to world class wrestler. I mean, those guys, you know, like Reza Madadi or whatever that guy's name was. Madadi.
Yeah,
he was terrible, but he was a world class wrestler, and he won several fights. So I just have trouble, you know, especially with. I mean, Nad is a good wrestler, but he's shown he has a little gas tank. I don't mean to be talking about that, but that's kind of how I feel about this Molly McCann Priscilla fight. I'm going to be more interested in looking ahead to other fights, and I hate to say that, but hope they surprise me. But it opened at nearly a pick-up.
Yeah, so, well, I'm very confident in Molly McCann. Minus 190 seems about right. Maybe like a minus 170 would be, you know, perfect, but I'm definitely going to have Molly McCann in at least one parlay. So moving on to the next one, we have Danny Henry versus Dan Ige. And I'll be breaking down...
The Battle of the Dans.
Yep. And I'll be breaking down Dan Ige. Okay, so he comes into this fight 2-1 inside the UFC, losing to Julio Arce, which is a bit weird because I get those two guys mixed up.
Same.
Yeah, they're literally the same guy, I'm sure.
I have a list of fighters so I get mixed up, and it may be only me who gets these mixed up, but
oh, man.
Yeah, they're definitely on the list.
Trust me. So yeah, he lost to Julio Arce. He beat Mike Santiago, which was very dominant, ground and pound. And then he fought a tough battle against Jordan Griffin, which was a very close fight. Okay, so this is a hard fight to break down. Because Danny Henry's been pretty decent in his 2 fights. I just think Danny Henry's going to be the taller guy here, but Dan Ige has the bigger reach. So Danny Henry is going to have to be within range to strike with Dan Ige. And that's a positive for Dan Ige because he actively looks to shoot for the takedown when he can. So, you know, if Danny Henry's taller, but he has to be within range of Dan Ige is going to be able to level change and get that takedown easier than if Danny Henry had a 4-inch reach advantage. So Dan Ige isn't going to have to look to close the gap. You know, there's not a big advantage for Danny Henry. Danny Henry does have nice jiu-jitsu, so if Dan takes him down, you know, it could get interesting. But I'm going to stick with Dan Ige. I haven't picked against him in his 3 fights. And he's just a guy I enjoy to watch. And yeah, that's an American I'm going to be taking on this British card. So, you know, low-key, I'm going to be rooting against Danny Henry whilst I'm there. Yeah, so I'm going to take Dan Ige to win a close decision.
Okay. I'll be breaking down Danny the Hatchet Henry, who is 12-2, 5 TKOs, 5 submissions. I always like seeing that. 2-0 in the UFC with a win over Daniel Tamer, in which he pretty much cruised. Looked really good. And he had a quick guillotine choke in under a minute against Hakeem Dawodu, which was really a shock. But showed that Danny Henry is actually pretty dangerous, which I wasn't exactly sure of going into that fight. And he's in a matchup here against a really tough Dan and Ige. And I think this is going to be an absolute scrap. I really think I'd be surprised if either guy got finished. If there is a finish, I could see Henry possibly getting a submission. I don't see either guy being able to knock out the other guy, though. I feel like Henry's pretty well-rounded. He comes into this fight on a 5-fight win streak. He's never been finished. And I agree with you. I think this is a close one. But I'm going to take Danny Henry. So I'm going to take the crowd being a little bit more behind the Scotsman. He's from Scotland, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll take the crowd being a little more in his corner, a little less of a travel issue. But it's going to be a close one. I think either this is another one that I'm not exactly going to be including in a ton of parlays. And I would expect this to be a pick'em. But we'll see here. So, but I will disagree with you. So for 2 out of the first 3, we have disagreements.
Yep.
And I have Danny Henry, who is the slight underdog. So that's I always like getting the slight underdogs in these close matchups. Plus 125 for Henry, minus 145 for Ige.
Yeah. Okay, that to me is perfect. Dan Ige, you know, just based on, you know, Danny Henry has the height, but he's going to have to be close to Dan Ige, and Dan Ige is going to be able to level change. So yeah, that sounds about right to me. It's interesting though, because if this fight's standing, you know, it's still close. It's a close one.
I mean, Ige was in a very close fight with a newcomer in Griffin in his debut, and Henry reminds me a lot of Griffin, or Griffin reminds me a lot of Henry. They're similar types of fighters, so it will be a similar camp, I would think, for Ige going into this fight of what he wants to do and what he needs to avoid. So that could play into account too for Ige. But yeah, it's a close one, so I'm not really questioning either side in this one.
Yep, fair play. Okay, so the next one is Tom Breese versus Ian Heimisch. And I'll let you take it away with the ex-prison convict.
Yeah, the ex-con. Yep, the ex-con and Ian the Hurricane Heimisch. He is 12-1, 4 KOs and 2 submissions, 1-0 in the UFC, coming off a win on short notice against El Mutante, where he looked really, really dominant with his wrestling and took a clear unanimous decision, was a pretty decent underdog that night, and I didn't give him a lot of a chance that night, so props to him for coming in there and proving me wrong.
Me too.
And this is definitely a tough follow-up to his debut, and I think that Ian could be in some trouble early here. I think Breese may get a finish in the first, and not sure, but if the fight keeps going, I think that serves Ian's favor. The longer this fight goes, I don't see it, but I just don't see it lasting a long time. I really don't. I think Breese is going to come out there and really work his strikes and look for a finish early, and I think he'll actually have success by it. I will take, I'll take Breese to get a first round KO. I think this will be Heimisch looking for a few takedowns early, not being successful, and then getting into a little bit of a firefight and being on the short end.
Nice. Okay. So Tom Breese comes into this fight 4-1 inside the UFC, spending the majority of his career at welterweight, where he went 3-1. And then I was at his last fight, which was in Liverpool, where he moved up to middleweight and fought Daniel Kelly. Tom Breese closed as a -400. I saw that fight, and let me tell you, Tom Breese looked big, strong, powerful. He just looked like so much more powerful, but just as quick. He just looked so much better. Like, he's like another prime example of a guy who moved up in weight and it looked better. You know, so many, like,
stop depleting your body of 15 pounds of food during training and water, and just there's so much that
if you're not world class like Khabib, you know, it works for guys like that, but you know, it's looked at as a majority having that advantage, having that, you know, that extra weight, but for most guys, you know, it's not great. So Tom Breese is a prime example of a guy moving up and looking better, and he looked good at welterweight, but he looks very good at middleweight. I pretty much agree with your full assessment of what you've just said there. Ian Heimisch is a relentless wrestler. He is looking to take you down and pound you out. So, you know, I see him having some success towards, like, you know, maybe the end of the second and third round. But I agree with you. I think Tom Breese gets it done inside the first. I think he comes out and hurts Ian Heimisch. So I'll take a Tom Breese via TKO in round number 1.
Nice. And he is the favorite, albeit a slight, at -150. So
that seems fair.
They have him at the same odds as Danny Gay against Henry. So that's a little interesting to me. But Heimisch, you know, plus 120.
If it gets to the end of the second and gets to the third, you know, we don't know. Ian Heimisch could be more successful with a takedown. But I agree with you. Tom Breese looks strong.
And with Breese not cutting that weight, the second and third round, which were a little bit of his problem at 170, maybe aren't a problem at 185. So, but we'll see.
And those takedowns really may not come, because once again, he's a strong guy, so he's going to be able to.
And he fights out of TriStar, I believe, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, so they have some wrestlers up there, like a few decent wrestlers, I'd say. That George St. Pierre guy used to fight up there. And I'm sure they have some others. So, we agree. So 2-2 so far on this card, and we move on to the next fight. Negumereanu. Okay, I'm going to try to
Nikolai.
I'm gonna give this one a shot. Between Negumereanu and Safarov. Not my finest work, but I can't even say it again. Gee, damn it. Go ahead and break down Nikolai, the Romanian, for me.
Okay, let me hit this off.
Go ahead.
Okay, Nikolai versus Safarov. Wow, I'm not even going to attempt it.
Safarov.
Yeah, these two are just wow. Okay, so Nikolai comes into this fight 9-0 in his pro career. He's debuting here against a guy who's, I believe, 0-2 inside the UFC. I think did he get pounded out by Volante and lose that Kimura?
Yeah, he got battered against Volante and then lost in the second, got Kimura'd by Tyson Pedro.
Yeah, okay. So this guy's just been pretty disappointing. Nikolai, 9-0 debuting. He's a wrestler, a decent kickboxer as well. One thing I will say from watching some tape, his competition hasn't been great. But one thing I will say from watching some tape is the guy is very patient. Like, he is extremely patient. He'll kind of stalk you with, like, real patience. So he is quite, it's a decent trait to have coming into your octagon debut, is being a patient fighter. That's always one thing I look for in a guy debuting. So, he's going to be able to level change. He's pretty patient, and he's fighting a guy who's pretty disappointing. So yeah, I believe Nikolai is going to be taller, longer as well. He's also younger. If that means anything in this fight, I don't even know. Yeah, Nikolai's not going to be going in many of my parlays, but I'm going to take him to win a decision.
Fair enough. All right, I will be breaking down Safarov. He is 8-2, 0-2 in the UFC, as we said, getting Kimura by Tyson Pedro in the first, getting knocked out by John Vellante in the second. And it's looking to me like Safarov did not face the best competition in Russia. He's definitely tough, and but the more damage you take, the less tough you get. And I have watched a lot of his opponent. He had a decent amount of tape on him, and I do know Nikolai's finished all 9 of his opponents. He's got good wrestling, good ground and pound from what I've seen. He looks like he's in good shape, but I'd imagine it's not going to be a factor because I think he probably wins this and stops Safarov in the second round. But I'm also picking Nikolai. Mm-hmm. But I'm also Nikolai's last fight. His referee was wearing red Converse during the fight, so
I did see that.
The level. That's like the level of fighter I've got to kind of surmise he's facing. But either way, I'm not exactly sure that Safarov's next fight won't be reffed by that red Converse guy. So yeah. Either way, I'm going to take Nikolai, and I'm confident that he's going to be able to win this fight, actually. Yeah. So I'll include Nikolai in a few parlays, but he's also minus 200 favorite, minus 225 favorite on Bovada.
Oh, so I don't know about that, man. I don't know about that.
He opened at minus 208. I think with how he fights and how Safarov fights, I think it's a pretty safe pick. The thing you just got to consider is how he reacts being in the octagon the first time.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's very patient,
and level of competition. It's
this
easy
is
to be
definitely going to be his biggest test, and that's, it's almost like that Tom Hardy comparison. Like, who did he fight recently where he kneed him in the head?
Tom Hardy?
Greg Hardy.
Oh, Greg Hardy. I was like, the actor Tom Hardy, Venom?
Wow. Yeah, this weed's legit.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I can't remember who that guy was, but, it was a step up in competition.
It was Greg Hardy.
No, who did he fight?
Oh, Crowder.
Crowder, right. So that was a step up for Greg Hardy.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good comparison.
So it's like
he has a little more experience, Nikolai, but yeah.
But when you see a ref with red Converse, and that's the competition we're fighting. Like,
yeah.
So, I'm confident Nikolai will win, but you're not
that confident.
Yeah, I'm not that confident. He can go in one parlay. He can take
it's hard to pick guys in their debut. They really do look. I mean, they're facing their biggest test, Ben Askren. Look at how he looked in his debut. You never saw him get cracked like that and then picked up and slammed.
Got hit by a bus.
Then he comes to UFC, and that's what happens. So, there's levels to this shit.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next fight here, which is a scrap between Irish Joe Duffy and Mark Diakiese. I will be breaking down Mr. Joe Duffy. He is 5-2 in the UFC, 16-3 overall, with 4 TKOs and 10 submissions in his 16 wins. He hasn't fought since September of 2017 when he was KO'd by James Vick in the second round with a second to go in the round. which it was a great uppercut from Vic to catch him.
Him.
And then I know that since then he's been kind of battling a rib injury. Took some time for that to fully recover, and he wanted to be fully recovered before he started training again. So props to him for being smart about that. He's another guy who fights out of TriStar. And he's had a solid game since coming to the UFC. What can I really say? He's got good boxing, was holding his own against Vic, and he just got caught. I think he's got a very clear path to victory with Diakiese, as most people do. It's not standing and trading. And I think he'll look to wrestle and submit Diakiese, and I think he gets a second-round submission here. I'm looking to see Joe Duffy be a little more active inside the octagon here. Hopefully stay a little more injury-free moving forward. But, yeah, I'd look for Joe Duffy. This is a good matchup for him, and good. He's just got to avoid one thing with Diakiese, and I think he does. And he gets the second round.
Nice. Okay, so Mark Diakiese comes into this fight 3-3 inside the UFC. He's another guy I've seen live. I've seen him twice. I was at his last win, which was early 2017. That was in London. And I was also at his last fight, which was his last loss in Germany against Nasrat. Yeah, so, the problem with Diakiese is, you just said it. The guy, can't grapple well. On his back, he's not great. And apart from that, he's pretty impressive. He's pretty flashy on the feet. Good calf kick. Stand up on the feet is great. He's very unpredictable, if you can't get the takedown. If you're confident in pressing him and being able to shoot on him and grapple, you kind of take away his tools on the feet, because then he becomes, aware of, what you're going to do, and, it makes him hesitant, and he can't really do what he wants to do on the feet. So, I'm a fan of Mark Diakiese. And, I pick him quite a bit. I picked against him with Dan Hooker. I did take Mark Diakiese to beat Nasrat. Every fight I see, I'm expecting him to, show me the improvements, but we're not seeing that. But he trains out of ATT, and he knows the problem. He's known the problem now for his last 3 fights, which are all losses. And they're all down to the same thing. So yeah, you're predicting the same thing happens for the 4th time. I'm gonna stick with Mark Diakiese. I'm only gonna assume that the problem is being improved. So I'm gonna assume Mark Diakiese is able to move and stop the takedown and score more on the feet. Having said that, I've seen Joe Duffy live as well. He is a great boxer, and even if he doesn't get the takedown, there's a decent chance that he gets the better of Mark Diakiese on the feet as well. So it's a really close fight, even without grappling and being on the mat. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with Mark Diakiese, though. I'm going to take him via a very close decision.
Well, I'm very, very surprised by that, I'll be honest. And Diakiese, he is the underdog, plus 175. Joe Duffy coming back, minus 225.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty fair. You've lost the same weight in your last 3 fights, pretty much. Yeah. Chances are you go on to lose like that again. But like I said, the camp he has and the people around him, I can only assume that the problem is improving. So
yeah, I'll have to look at the card by the end, but I'm pretty sure Joe Duffy would be one of my 2 or 3 more confident picks on this card. It is a close card also, though, but
it's a fair one.
Yeah, so props to the pick. I did not see that coming at all. So let's move on to the next fight. You want to lead us off?
Yes. Okay, we have Arnold Allen versus Jordan Rinaldi. And I'll be breaking down Arnold Allen. Comes into this fight 4-0 inside the UFC. I've been at 2 of his fights. His most notable win coming over Amir Khani, which was in London. I was at that fight. And then in his last fight, he was 2 rounds down against Mads Bernal. And then he pulled off a front choke. So yeah, apart from that, apart from being, you know, pretty much having an off night against Mads Burnell, Arnold Allen has been pretty decent. Very strong wrestler. Nice top control. Stand up. You know, he can stand. You know, he's obviously wanting to take you down. Jordan Rinaldi, also another guy who's looking to take you down. He's moving down from lightweight. He had a fight against Jason Knight, where he pretty much took down Jason Knight and controlled him on the mat. I do believe this is a tougher test for Rinaldi, because I believe Arnold Allen has far better wrestling than Jason Knight. You know, Jason Knight has decent jiu-jitsu, but as far as wrestling goes, he's not a good wrestler. So this is a tougher test for Rinaldi. Yeah, I don't really want to pick against Arnold Allen at this point, apart from his last fight, where he still actually won that fight. You know, he had an off night and still won, which is a very good trait to have. You know, when you can win and not look great, there's a positive in there. So, you know, some people looking at that, you know, with a bit of a negative. You know, I see the negative. You know, Mads Burnell's not a great guy, and you know, if you're losing for over 10 minutes against him, it's not great to, you know, have confidence in his next fight, where Jordan Rinaldi has looked very good at 145 in his first fight. But I'm going to stick with Arnold Allen, and I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him to get a submission in round number 2.
Wow. Okay. I will be breaking down Mr. Jordan Rinaldi. He is 14-6 overall with 8 submission wins. He's 2-2 in the UFC, with tough losses coming to Abel Trujillo and Conor Gillespie. Or Gregor Gillespie, sorry.
I was at that fight, man. It was great.
Yeah, and that's pretty impressive that he was not finished in that fight. But basically, Jordan's primarily a grappler, and when he's not able to dictate when the fight is on the ground, he seems to have a little bit of trouble. So against Jason Knight, he obviously was able to dictate where the fight went, and Jason Knight was a pretty perfect matchup for Rinaldi, because he's so willing to pull guard and just lay in his rubber guard, and Rinaldi has enough submission defense that he didn't have to worry about being caught by anything, and just really cruise like I kind of predicted in that fight. And Rinaldi looked really good at 145 for sure. So this is an example of a guy cutting weight to look a little better. So it does go both ways. It's not an absolute either way. So I think he's going to look to take this to the ground, but I think he's up against a really well-rounded and athletic guy in Allen, who really can defend the takedowns and go for his own submissions, as he showed in that last fight. I think this is one of the closest fights on the card. I really do. I've been going back and forth. I really like Rinaldi, but I'm going to take Allen to get a decision win. But if this is one I'm wrong on and Rinaldi wins, fair play to him. And there's a very good chance I may be including a few bets for Rinaldi here, even possibly to get the submission, depending on the prices. But I will take, I'm going to take Allen for my official pick. So take Arnold Allen by decision.
Nice. And what are the odds on this one?
Odds are, let's see, 1 second. They opened at minus 300 for Arnold Allen, plus 220 for Jordan Rinaldi. And the odds for Arnold Allen and Jordan Rinaldi closed at, or are currently at minus 170 plus 140. So they've shifted about 130 or so, and about 80 for Rinaldi. So I think that's more accurate there. I'm fine with Rinaldi being a slight underdog, but
yeah, it's a close fight.
Be much more than that.
On
it's a close
paper,
one for
it's a
sure.
very close fight. Okay, so moving on into, I believe this is the start of the main card now. And what a fight to kick off the main card. Jack Marshman versus John Phillips, who used to be called the White Mike Tyson, is now the Welsh Wrecking Machine. So a change of name there. I'll be breaking down Jack Marshman. comes into this fight 2-3 inside the UFC. You know, what can you really say about this fight? You know, both guys are Welsh. Both guys are going to be coming with the same game plan. I highly doubt John Phillips is going to be looking to grapple. I highly doubt Jack Marshman is going to be looking to grapple. Jack Marshman has lost to decent competition. I believe he was a fair underdog in his debut. But yeah, you know, this fight is a great fight because this could be just packed with blood. This could be fight of the night. Or this could be two Welshmen with, you know, let me show you I have a bigger ego than you inside this octagon. And it could be over within a minute. But this is just, you know, for any like American listeners who are just like, you know, this fight just seems trash. Like, who are these guys? Trust me, the fact that they're both Welsh, just turning up in London to kick off a main card, trust me, man, this is gonna be a barn burner. So I'm actually gonna take John Phillips. I really liked what I saw against Kevin Holland. His forward pressure, his never say die attitude, you know, and some decent stand up from John Phillips in that fight. But same with Jack Marshman, you know, he hits very hard, and it's going to be two Welshmen putting on a show. Most likely fight of the night. But I'm gonna take John Phillips to get his first win inside the octagon, and it's going to be over his fellow countryman. So I'm going to take John Phillips via TKO in round number 2.
All right, I will be breaking down the Welsh wrecking machine, John Phillips, formerly White Mike Tyson. He's 21-8 with 18 TKOs, 3 subs, but he's not going to be looking for the subs here. This is going to be, I think, pretty much exclusively on its feet here between the two guys. And he's 0-2. He's lost to Kevin Harland and Charles Byrd, both by rear naked choke. Mm-hmm. So showing he's a little susceptible in the grappling, but he's definitely an exciting fighter and not the most well-rounded MMA guy. But again, I don't think that's going to be an issue here. I think both guys are going to look to go in there and trade. I see this as pretty much a coin flip, but I'll side with Marshman, and I'll give just barely, and I'll give him I'll say a second round TKO. So Phillips can complete his 3 rounds in the UFC with a first round finish, a second round finish, and a third. So, yeah, I'll take Marshman for what should be a pretty close fight and a good matchup. And I'll take Marshman to get the finish in the second round. And Marshman is the pretty decent favorite at -190, plus 155 for John Phillips. So yeah, there's a shot for you.
In my opinion, but yeah, man, this is going to be a great fight. Both guys are Welsh. Both guys are going to look to trade. And this is going to be a cracker to start the main card. So you know, I'm going to be definitely putting John Phillips in a parlay.
Yeah, it's not the most relevant of fights here, but it is going to be an exciting one, I think. So we disagree again there. We have a fair amount of disagreements here so far in this card. So let's move on to Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts and Claudio, I'll just say Silva. So I will be breaking down Danny Roberts. He is 16-3, 7 TKOs and 5 submissions in his 16 wins, 5-2 in the UFC. However, pretty much not the most notable of wins. He is coming off of a 2-fight win streak with a split decision win over Dave Zawada. He's not bad, but he's not had that trademark breakout performance inside the octagon yet. Both his losses were pretty handily he was pretty handily KO'd in both his losses as well. So that's something to definitely be aware of. His opponent likely will push to get this fight to the ground while he's not been the most active. That doesn't appear to be a factor, but in his return fight against Nordine Talib, he was totally fine. So Claudio Silva looked like that. The lack of activity didn't seem to affect him. He looked pretty good against Nordine. And I think this is going to be a tough one. I'll take Claudio to get a decision win, but I don't think he's going to be able to finish him.
Nice. Okay, so Claudio Silva, 3-0 inside the UFC. For any English listeners or UK listeners or even European listeners, this Claudio Silva guy, 3-0, he's taken European names. He's got a European hit list. He's got a win over Brad Scott, who's English, Leon Edwards, English, and like you said, in his return fight, which I was actually at in Liverpool, he beat Nordine Taleb, who's French. So, you know, he's fighting an English guy here. You know, this guy's got a European hit list. Where do I go with this fight? Well, it's striker versus grappler. Usually I side with the grappler. I'm not going to this time. I think Danny Roberts is going to have decent enough movement to keep Claudio off him. You know, if it does go to the mat, chances are Danny is getting subbed. Having said that, if I remember correctly, Claudio Silva actually hurt Nordine Taleb on the feet, then jumped on him and subbed him. So, you know, we have seen Danny Roberts brutally TKO'd. So yeah, it's a close one. On paper, it's a close one. And this guy is, you know, he's no joke. Even with that 4 years off, he looked very good in Liverpool. So, yeah, I'm going to side with Danny Roberts still. It's a very close one, and I'm going to agree with your method. I'm going to take Danny Roberts via a close decision.
All right. So we have another disagreement there. So that's 4 or 5. We'll total it up here. But so Danny Roberts is the slight underdog at plus 125. Claudio coming back at minus 155. I think that's spot on.
Yeah. You know, this should be a pick'em. Fight night is probably going to be a little closer than that, odds-wise. But yeah, pretty much agree with those odds. This is literally, you know, you're taking a shot with the grappler and you're taking a shot with Danny Roberts, the striker, too. Yeah. So it's a close one.
Yeah, not to MMA math, but I do think Claudio, this will be his second easiest fight inside the octagon of his 4 fights. Skill-wise.
Well, styles make fights, so we're going to have to see.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely see. I mean, I think he surprised a striker in Nordine in his last fight, and I could see him surprising a striker in Danny Roberts here, but that's why they fight him. It's a close one, so moving on. We can move on.
Moving on to a fight that I believe is not as close as the majority of these fights on the card. We have Nathaniel Wood versus Jose Quinones. I'll be breaking down Nathaniel Wood. Comes into this fight 2-0 inside the UFC. Previously a bantamweight champion in Cage Warriors. I know you're very big on Nathaniel Wood. I am getting to that point now. His debut was interesting. He got hurt, fought through adversity, looked very good, and still got a DAS finish. And then he fought Andre Ewell, who looked, you know, fairly impressive against Renan Barão. But, you know, that's not really, you know, that's not giving us credit this day and age. But, yeah, Nathaniel Wood looked very good against Ewell. His pressure is great. He can wrestle. His stand-up seems to only improve. And, you know, you made a good point about his stand-up in our last breakdown. And you nailed it. You know, this kid really can stand as well. So, yeah, he's looking very well-rounded. I just see him, you know, having a performance like his last. You know, the pressure is going to be too much for Quinones. He has got some decent flashy kicks, Quinones, and he's going to have his way of moving, which is like Ishihara-like, you know, that kind of style. But yeah, I just see Nathaniel Wood having, you know, success here. I see him getting the takedown. I see him pretty much mauling Quinones with pressure and grappling. So I'm going to take Nathaniel Wood. I'm very, very confident in Nathaniel Wood. He's definitely going to be in at least minimum of 3 parlays. So Nathaniel Wood, for me, submission in round number 1.
Nice. So I will be breaking down Jose Alberto El Teco Quinones. He is 7-2 with a couple TKOs and a submission in there. He's 4-1 in the UFC, which I was surprised about. His wins coming over, or 3 of the 4 I have here: Joey Gomez, some Diego Rivas, and Ishihara. So he does have 4 wins, but not the craziest of competition. And one of Quinoes' earlier losses was to Davi Ramos, who's fighting at 155 right now, and he's an absolute tank. So, that's kind of interesting there. That's one of Quinones' losses early in his career. He has good stand-up, and he tries to, when he does wrestle, he tries to use it to keep the fight on its feet for the most part. And I think in this fight, he has to look to make it a war on the feet. I think that's his only chance of possibly catching Wood and getting him out of there. Otherwise, I see Wood mauling him. And I think you're pretty spot on. I think he will, and I think he gets a submission in first 2 rounds. I'll say it's round 1 submission for Nathaniel Wood. I think he gets in there and gets it done quick.
It's nice to agree, but then it's nice to agree, like, perfectly. So yeah. I enjoy that too on this channel. I
mean, I will make no secret about it. I think Nathaniel Wood is one of the best prospects at 135. Him and Ricky Simone are amongst my favorites.
What a fight! What a fight!
Yeah, and when you said that this is one of your more confident picks or whatever you said, or he's should be one of the bigger favorites, he is the biggest favorite on the card. Nathaniel Wood is minus 270.
There you go.
So, first of all, that's pretty sweet that minus 270 is the largest favorite because I'm looking at all the odds here. But yeah, minus 270 being the biggest favorite is a sign there's going to be probably a fair amount of underdogs coming in. Or we'll see though. But
hashtag I feel John Phillips.
Yeah, well, that could be your hashtag. I had my hashtags earlier in the card, like hashtag Mike Grundy. So we can all hashtag if we want.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens on fight night, but Wood will be in a majority of my parlays. That is my most confident pick of the night there. So
yeah, fair play. Okay, so moving on to Volkan Oezdemir versus Dominic Reyes, and I'll let you take it away with Dominic Reyes.
All right, I will be breaking down Dominic the Devastator Reyes. He is 28 years old, has a perfect record of 10-0, 6 TKOs. 2 submissions. He's 4-0 in the UFC with 2 TKOs and a submission, all coming in the first round. Those coming to Jared Cannonier before he cut down to 185 to fight Anderson Silva, which is weird. Jeremy Kimball and Joachim Christensen, I believe. So Dominic Reyes definitely is taking a step up here in competition. He took one up with regards to OSP, and he's taking the next progression up with regards to Volkan Oezdemir here. And most of his fights have lasted under 4 minutes. So I really did like seeing him go the distance with OSP, who's a veteran, and really show he has a good gas tank and is able to fight through some adversity and whatnot, all things that are necessary. So I do think he's getting back to his first round finishing ways here. And I think that he finishes Volkan in the first round. So I have Dominic Reyes by first round TKO.
Nice. Okay, so Volkan Oezdemir. Fun fact. It's just a fun fact about me. I think it would be doper if Volkan Oezdemir's name was Oezdemir Volkan. Like if Bruce Buffer could pronounce it that way.
You've said this before.
Yeah,
it's like
Oezdemir Volkan. That would be legit.
Because Vulcan sounds like volcano, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway. You still don't know, and you're the one who keeps saying it. I'm not supposed to know. I'm not your therapist. Break him down. Besides the fact that you want his name reversed for some reason.
Okay, so he comes into this fight 3-2 inside the UFC. He had a decent start against OSP, Misha Serkinov, and Jimmy Manoir. Then he lost. Got dominated by DC. And then he lost to Smith. Okay, so Volkan Oezdemir. Most people were very impressed with his wins over Misha and Jimmy Manoir. Don't get me wrong, they're impressive wins, right? But you have to look at
Misha's is getting less and less impressive, it appears.
Okay, so that's it. He's a grappler, and he doesn't like to fight without grappling, right?
He doesn't like to get hit in the head at all.
Exactly. So, you look at that, it's impressive. But is it that impressive? And then you have Jimmy Manuwa, right? He's slow and old. Yes, the guy hits very hard. Yes, the guy has some decent wins, but once again, he's slow, he's old, and he's very hittable. So both of those losses kind of threw him into the deep end, just like DC said. You say we're getting a step up in competition here for Dominic Reyes. I'm not too sure we are. So Volkan Oezdemir is, you know, he's got the name No Time because of those 2 wins. But what we're seeing is Volkan Oezdemir in his last 2 fights, you know, when he doesn't get, you know, that quick knockout, is he that special? Should he be like rank number, what is he, rank number 6? You know, should he have got that title shot?
Slight heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I'm with you. I'm on Dominic Reyes here. He's a very good prospect for the division. He's looked very impressive. But I'm gonna say it's gonna be competitive for the first round, and then I'm gonna say there's a finish in the second. I think Dominic Reyes is gonna up the gear and get a finish in round number 2. So I'll take Reyes via TKO in round number 2.
Yeah, I guess when I said step up, I didn't mean like a dramatic step up. I just meant a very, you know, like literally like one step on the staircase up between OSP and
or like
Oezdemir.
just being halfway up.
Like, I mean, yeah, yeah, sure, why not? And Dominic Reyes, he is coming in as the 2nd largest favorite on the card. So at minus 260.
Yeah,
so just
he's a guy I'm going to have in at least 3 parlays.
Yeah, I think I see him and Wood being, you know, partners in quite a few here as well. So, and yeah, Oezdemir coming back plus 200.
Yep, seems fair.
So, yeah.
Anyone who believes in Volkan Oezdemir, anyone who believes the complete opposite of what I just said for him, you know, it's worth like $10 in a parlay. So, but yeah, I'm going to have Dominic Reyes there. Yeah, moving on.
I agree.
Moving on to the co-main. Leon Rocky Edwards versus Gunnar Nelson. And I'll be breaking down Gunnar Nelson. Okay, so he comes into this fight 8-3 inside the UFC. You know, what can we say about Gunnar Nelson? He's a very, very talented grappler. Amazing jiu-jitsu. Pretty much all of his wins inside the UFC have been via submission. You can beat him. If you keep him standing, you can beat him. If you're Ponzinibbio, if you fight like him, you can eye poke him and beat him.
Yeah, several eye pokes.
Yeah, in his last fight, you know, that was a bloody war on the feet, even on the ground. But Gunnar Nelson just doing what he does best, you know, finding that submission, opening him up with the elbows as well. Oh, it was nasty. Leon Edwards, man, he's been very impressive. He's got decent wrestling. Seems very measured on the feet. His IQ seems to be there. He is someone I enjoy watching. Against Cowboy, he looked very good. Against Sabota, he looked very good. I saw him in London 2 years ago. Looked very good. He's just been on a really good run. He has got a step up in competition here in Gunnar Nelson. You know, Cowboy is very hit or miss. It doesn't, you know, you can get one Cowboy that day and one Cowboy another day. So, you know, Gunnar Nelson is a legit step up in competition, if you will. It's a close one, though. It's a close one because if Gunnar gets it down, he can submit Leon. But if for as long as the fight's standing, Leon Edwards is, I think he's smart enough to outpoint Gunnar Nelson. You know, he's aware that Gunnar Nelson is out of his world for as long as the fight isn't in a grappling exchange. And I think he's going to take advantage of that. So yeah, for those reasons, I'm going to take Leon Edwards via decision.
All right, fair enough. I will break down Leon Rocky Edwards, 16-3 overall, 6 TKOs, 3 subs, 8-2 in the UFC. Hasn't fought since his dominant 5-round decision against Cowboy, but that was about a year ago. He's got good stand-up. I looked for him to utilize a lot of leg kicks, good movement. I think Nelson will look to grapple early and often, and the question will be if Leon can wrestle well enough to avoid Gunner's expertise. And I think Leon will be the better conditioned of the two, but he has to be really careful here. I think Gunner will look to take his back. He'll look to get to fight to the ground any opportunity he can get. But I think Leon's going to be smart enough, ready enough. I really agree with your breakdown pretty much with regards to outpointing him. And I think he could even end up turning up the pace in the third round. I kind of question Gunner's gas tank as the fight goes. So, so we'll see. But yeah, I think that I'm going to take Leon Edwards, and I'll take him to get a third round TKO.
Nice. And what are the odds?
Let's see. Leon Edwards is a slight favorite at -150, plus 120 for Gunner.
Yeah, that seems about fair. It should be a little closer come fight night once again with that one. But yeah, you know, you're taking a shot if you're going with the grappler there, and you're kind of taking a shot if you go with the striker, because you know if it goes to Gunner's world for even, you know, a minute, it could be over. If it stays in Leon's world for 8 minutes, the damage could be done. You know, pretty much Gunner's gonna fail to get that takedown because of the damage. It's a close fight on paper, and I believe it's going to be a close fight in the octagon as well.
Yeah, so, it's a good fight for sure. So,
yep. Okay.
We are on to everybody's favorite thing, the main event of the evening between Darren Till and Jorge Masvidal. I will allow you to lead us off with Darren Till. Okay,
so Darren Till comes into this fight 5 wins, 1 draw, like you said earlier, and 1 loss. That loss being to Tyron Woodley in a title fight. Darren Till has been pretty dominant in all of his wins and all of his fights, pretty much. Anyone saying that Wonder Boy won that fight, and you know, you don't know what you're talking about. I was at that fight. I witnessed that fight in the flesh. And this is coming from someone who had... I was at that fight. I had money on Wonder Boy. I picked Wonder Boy. Believe me, I gave Wonder Boy round 1. And after that, I scored Darren Till every single round. You know, Darren Till is just... He's a middleweight, man. People call him a light heavyweight. In my eyes, he's a middleweight. He's very big. You know, he proved against Wonder Boy he's, you know, kind of a dirty fighter with those kicks to the knee, that John Jones kick. You know, very big guy. He kind of snipes. He'll keep you on the outside and kind of snipe in when he sees an opening. You know, very nice head kicks, the tie knees, the elbows over the top. He is a very nasty, dirty fighter. You know, we see him absolutely starch Cowboy. You know, just so much bigger than him. You know, he was just able to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if he did the same thing to Masvidal. I know a lot of people are talking about Masvidal's chin and how tough he is, and I completely agree. I completely agree with you. But Darren Till is just massive, and you know, this is a middleweight versus a lightweight. Make no mistake. And I just, you know, anyone who knows Jorge Masvidal, he just doesn't care. He's got that Diaz attitude. He just doesn't care. He's not going to look to grapple, and he's not going to look to take the fight to the mat. You know, he's there to fight. He doesn't really care if he's getting outpointed. He's just there to fight. He's never a safe guy to bet on because of, you know, his attitude. He doesn't care. He's just looking to just brawl, you know. He's a scrapper. He's that type of guy. But yeah, you know, how can you go against Darren Till here? I believe he does get the finish. I really do. And I'm going to take it in round 2. I think he hurts Masvidal bad in round 2. So I'll take Darren Till via TKO in round number 2.
All right, I will be breaking down Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. He is 32-13 with 13 TKOs and 2 submissions. He is 9-6 in the UFC. His best win definitely being that second round TKO of Dom Cerrone. I was at that fight in Denver. He looked great there. He's currently on a 2-fight losing streak, however, and hasn't fought since November of 2017. and he's for some reason in the main event against a guy coming off a title shot. So I'm a little confused why, but he's seemed to have trouble getting a fight, and he's fought the who's who of everybody at 155 and 170 just about. I just see Till being way too big and completely cutting off the octagon on his way to a second round TKO to keep it short. Darren Till is a middleweight, and I think the only hope here is that he has a severely bad weight cut that causes him to be relatively ineffective in there and freeze up and move up to middleweight. But I think otherwise, if he comes in decently conditioned, I think he makes this fight look pretty similar to a Cerrone fight, and I'll take a second round TKO for Till.
Nice.
So he is the favorite. And minus 250 favorite for Till. So the last three of the 4 last fights of the night are the biggest favorites, interestingly enough.
And those would be my most free confident. In order, I'd go like Wood, Till, Reyes. Those are my most free confident as well. So it's nice to see those odds.
I agree. Wood, Till, Reyes, I think really stand ahead. Wood, Till, Reyes, Duffy for me. I get you didn't pick that, but for me, that will be a 4th fight I guarantee I have in is Wood, Till, Duffy, Reyes.
Yeah, fair play.
I can guarantee that one. Fight of the night. I'm gonna say Marshman and Phillips. And I'm gonna say the better of the Welshman.
Completely with you. That is going to be a bomb burner.
Neither guy has anything to lose. I guess they do have their UFC job to lose. Whoever loses this probably is close on the chopping block.
But know that fight of the night bonus, both those guys are turning up knowing, look, you know what to do, I know what to do. Yeah.
Don't take this to the ground, let's go.
Let's do it. I'm looking forward to this card. I'm going to this card live. All the events I go to, I always have trouble betting, so I'm not going to be able to hedge bets. So it could turn out to be a bad night for me, but I don't really care. I'm going to smash all my parlays on the night before, go to this card, hopefully walk out of the event with profit. If not, I've had a good time, and we'll break down the next card. But
I think we have 5 disagreements.
Yeah, we have like 5 or 6. I'll put those.
So we'll have those listed. Yep, but this is a great card. I would love to be there live with you, but eventually we will get there, so we'll figure it out. But this is being started at your normal local time, right?
Yep, 4 p.m. I believe.
So it's starting early.
Yep.
So it's starting early over here on the East Coast. That's worth noting. So, I'm looking forward to this fight card, and thank you to everybody who comments, everybody listening. We are just slowly building a weird community here, and we appreciate you all. So enjoy the fights, good luck on the bets, and we will be talking to you next week for the UFC between Wonderboy Thompson and Anthony Pettis.
Wow.
So this is probably what happens when you have all these fight cards in the pros. You're going to get a weird one with the co-main event being Curtis Blades versus Justin Willis. So that's going to be a fun one to break down. I haven't even looked at the rest of that card, but enjoy the fights, everybody, and good luck.
Yep. Good luck, everyone. Peace.
Peace out.